Everybody out there in the Chazaq and Torah Anytime universe. So, as usual, I want to begin by thanking you guys, Chazaq, Torah Anytime, for including me in their circle and sharing their holy Chosheva audience with me. There's, there's nothing like whatever, it's the best thing in the world to share Torah. And in order to share Torah, you need the right audience. And this is the best audience there is. And I look forward to these infrequent visits with you guys. Okay, this year is hosted by Chickens for Shabbos, which is a very choshev organization that provides not just chickens for Shabbos, but also malamdim teachers, chavrusas for children of almanas and grushas, and food also for rebbeim. It's a very choshev organization, pretty wide scope. They basically take care of what needs to be taken care of. And anybody who can help in any way, it would be a great use of your tzedakah. Chickensforshabbos.com. Check it out. The theme of this series of shiurim is always really the theme of the risk and the reward of talking during davening, or not talking during davening, really. So let's get busy, and there's a lot to do. So I want to start off just talking about the shir in the context of where we are. We just experienced last week Kriyas Yamsuf, Parshas Beshalach, and the Man, and the splitting of the sea, and we're heading right now after Tu B'Shvat. Right in the horizon is Purim. So I want to talk a little bit about the contrast between what's behind us and what's in front of us, and in a very, very important way, especially in regards to the idea of being silent in shul. And I'm just going to sandwich it in those two bookends, and we'll see. And then I want to speak mainly about the parsha this week, what's right in the middle of this sandwich. So the sandwich is by Kriyas Yamsuf. What does Hashem tell the Jewish people? The Jewish people are nervous and they're kvetching and they're scared and they don't know what to do. And the words that it says are as follows: Hisyatzvu uru'u. You stand still and look and watch as Yeshua's Hashem, the salvation of Hashem, that what Hashem will do for you today. Because the way you've seen Mitzrayim until today, you will never again see them in the same stature, with the same power. Hashem, the punchline, Hashem yilochem lochem, Hashem will wage war for you, the atem tacharishon, and you will be silent. Hashem is going to do everything. You sit back and watch. Atem tacharishon. In the context of a shir talking during davening, you'd think that that's like the most important pasuk to use. Atem tacharishon and so on. But the problem is that it's a nice thought, atem tacharishon. But on Purim, we know that the punchline of the Purim story are very, very different words. Esther is reluctant and sort of like into crossing her sea. She's sitting before the raging sea, which is Achashverosh, the king of the entire world. And she's with trepidation, just like the Jews by the Yamsuf. But there, Mordechai, as opposed to Moshe saying, Atem tacharishin, you should be silent, the words that Moshe uses to Esther are, Im hacharesh tacharishi la'is kazos. If you will be silent at this time, Revach v'atzala, the salvation will come from somewhere else. And the punchline of the Purim story, the defining moment, is Macharesh Tacharishin. Don't chas v'shalom be silent. Masha Inkim, but on the other hand, by Kriyas Yamsuf, is you cry to be silent. And here we are, right in the middle of those two bread slices, and we're the filling. What is the difference? When are we supposed to be silent? When are we forbidden to be silent? What is the dynamics of silence? And to talk about that, I want to really translate the word silence, because it has a mysterious translation. The word chesreishin, it means to be silent or mute, deaf, whatever, but it means that, but it has a more common meaning throughout the Torah, a whole different word. People will be shocked it's the same word, and that is chayresh. To chesreishin means to plow. You're it's the malachas of Shabbos is really the first of the malachas, maybe zareya, but chayrish really in the process. Chayrish is plowing is the first malacha. And to plow, what does plowing have to do with silence? And I think on the end of the shir, I hope somebody, there's no one to remind, someone's going to remind me, like, to get back to this, because this is the punchline. Sometimes I can get so sidetracked that I'm not even going to come back to this. But the punchline will be what the connection between plowing and silence. Okay, but meanwhile, in order to resolve all of this and to get to the plowing and the silence, we first have to deal with something in this week's parsha. I want to focus on two things in this week's parsha. And by the way, anyone who's listening, I don't have to watch on my Zoom. There's no clock, and I don't get rid of my clock. So someone's got to give me like some kind of warning, like when I'm a half an hour in, so I know, like, so I know, okay, I don't see anything, and I can get ahead of whatever. I want to finish this. All right. So this week's parasha, I want to deal with two things. First of all, the sin of the egel. What happens by the egel? Like, why did the Jews worship the egel? That's the big question, probably in the parsha, you know. But before that, something that people don't get to talk about. Something, even if you're like live all your life on Torah time, you've probably seen every shir. So that you really have to like scrape the bottom of the pot to find something that none of this audience has heard yet. So hopefully you haven't heard this talked about. Most people don't even know the problem exists. If you look at the Aseres HaDibros in this week's parsha, and you look at them again, right? The Aseres HaDibros are written twice in the Torah, and there are a number of differences between the two sets of Dibros. Right? Everyone's familiar with Zachar and Shamar, the two different mitzvahs of Shabbos that was said Zachar and Shamar B'Dibur Echad, right? That everyone knows. The smallest difference of all the differences is a vav that's missing in the second Dibros. In the first tablets, it says as follows: the second commandment, right? The second one of the Dibros, that you shouldn't worship false gods, and describing the idea of the false gods. Lo yilacha Elohim acherim, any false gods. Lo yisasa lecha kol pesel v'chol tamuna. You should not make for yourself any pesel. What's the word pesel? Pesel is like the same words with the tablets were actually made. They were right psal lecha shnei luchos, right, to carve. The word puzzle or puzzle is something is Esrog breaks its pitim. It's called puzzle. Like why? What is puzzle? So, the idea is psoiles is the waste, the thing that's no longer useful. When you're chiseling and you knock off the little bits of brick and the pebbles that come off, that's called psoiles. There's the thing you want, and then all the waste matter. And when you reduce something useful to something that doesn't have a role anymore, you puzzle it. You left it outside of what. I guess that's one way to understand it. But the point is here that the luchos were made by chiseling. That act is what makes the luchos, and that's what is forbidden not because the luchos are made that way. I'm just using it just to help us define the words. The mitzvah of a false god is a pesel or a tmuna. Don't make a pesel, which is a chiseling, like I guess when you start with a block of granite and you chisel and make an idol. That's a pesel because it was chiseled. And the other thing is a tmuna. A tmuna is a picture. It's the opposite. A pesel is you start with a whole block of stone and you chisel it. And a picture, tmuna, is where you create the thing you want. You're not going from 100 down to what you want. You're going from 0 up to what you want. You're taking a brush and you're taking colors and you're creating what you want. I think, okay, I'll tell you the difference first. So here it says a pesel v'kol tmuna, a carving or a picture. In the second tablets, it says pesel kol tmuna. It's missing a vav. It's a carving of a picture or a carving picture. First of all, what does it even mean? A carving of a picture or a carving picture? And I mean, we understand what a carving or a picture is. Okay, so this is the question I want to deal with over here. And in the course of it, I also want to explain in some way, to some extent, what happens by the golden calf. All right, so the Torah is setting up a paradigm of all idols. Every idol is a pesel or a tmuna. Don't make a pesel or a tmuna. How does everything fit into a pesel or a tmuna? And they do. Everything does fit into a pesel or a tmuna. Because a pesel is there's two ways to create something. One is where you start with a whole block, something complete, and you remove what you don't want, and you're left with a carving. And the other one is where you start with nothing and you build it up. Those are the two models of creating everything. Everything in the world is either a pesel or a tmuna. You either started with nothing and created something, you started with everything and demolished and took away what you didn't want. So in false beliefs, in kfira, in heresy, there's also two versions of disbelief in God. There's the pesel model and the tmuna model. And the Torah is saying don't have a pesel or a tmuna. What are the two models? So the pesel model is where you start with a perfect image of God. You start off with a healthy picture of, you went from school and you got a good chinuch and you have a proper picture of God. But you go through life and stuff happens and you start to chisel away at him. You say, you know what? There's a Holocaust. God can't be in control of the world. He doesn't have power. Children have cancer. Chas v'shalom. So God can't be compassionate. And as you go through life, you start to chisel away at the block of stone until you have nothing left, or you have something left, but you're creating God. That's the first type of heresy. The first type of apikoros is to start with a full picture and be paisel, chisel away. Another way of other types of apikoros is when you start the opposite. I start without any picture, and I look around the world and I go, oh, this is so beautiful. God must be like this. And this is a good thing. God must be like this. My God has to be loving. My God has to be kind. My God has to be patient. My God has to be. But what you're doing is you're creating God based on what your perceptions are. It's a tmuna. And every mistaken belief in God is either one of these two things. Either you started with a healthy, complete, true picture of God and you chiseled away at it, or you started with an empty picture of nothing, a blank slate, and then you created him. It would be a fascinating discussion to discuss which one's worse, what are the benefits, is there a difference? But it's a deep thing to think about, that all false beliefs fall into these two categories. And Hashem forbids both of them. So if that's the case, and now we have to understand, so what is the second tablets? When you remove the vav, now you have something new, a carving of a picture. What's that third thing? Okay, so now let's detach for a second and look at the story of the golden calf. What actually happened there? Well, it's such a ridiculous story. They just had Kriyas Yamsuf, and they stood by Har Sinai. They heard Hashem talk. How is it possible to worship a golden calf? In the craziest conceptuals, there's no way really to conceive of it. You can paint the worst people in the world, and they couldn't get to this place so quickly. It needs to have, right? So we have a Messiah. We understand more or less what the dialogue was, and if you, it really, the parasha has to be seen on the heels of last week with the mud. The Jews were complaining the whole last week also. Something already has been going on, and all of it is described perfectly, I think, in what they made to replace, to replace God or replace Moshe, maybe God, is this golden calf. What is the symbolism of a golden calf? So what is a calf? A calf is youth. It's an egel. It's a calf. It's bright-eyed and on fire. It's lit up. It's the golden calf is the glorification of youth, of growth, of expansion. That's when it gets older, it puts a yoke on and it's focused and it's plowing a field or it's having a family. But the calf, in its vibrancy, in its fullness, that's the total, and the gold. That's the fired up calf, and the gold is the glorification of that. What's going on is like this, I think. And again, this isn't my turn. This is throughout Jewish thought, but is that the problem the Jews had with the man is that we're sitting here in the desert. We left Mitzrayim. We finally went free, and now we want to build a life for ourselves. We want to do things, and instead we're sitting here, and everything comes from Shemayim. It's lechem hakloikem. It's just this. It leaves us with this empty feeling that we're just beggars. We're just receiving bounty from God, and I have no role in this. And it's nice, in Egypt I was a slave, but I don't want to just do nothing. I want to still work hard, but I want to build a life for myself. We want to go to Eretz Yisrael and plow my own field, build my own home. To sit in the desert and let Hashem take care of us is it's empty. And the idea of food coming from Shemayim, and it doesn't make it any better if you tell me, oh, it'll taste like anything you want it to taste like. Yeah, but it'll never taste like accomplishment. It'll never taste like greatness. It'll never taste like mine. right? Not everything can be. I can't bribe a man with with delicious food. I mean, not at least not the Torah's meant. Today we're fractions of what we were meant to be, but that wasn't what it was supposed to be. The Jewish people's complaint with the mon is a holy complaint, and they want meat, they want to hunt, they want to be the master of their own food, and they remember the fish they ate in Mitzrayim, right? They said the Zocher is Hadoga Asher Ochal b'Mitzrayim Chinam. We remember the fish we ate for free. What does that mean? The fish we ate for free is that fish don't come to you. You got to fish, right? But that's called free. Because when you hunt and you catch your own fish, then there's no guilt and no debt. There's nothing more expensive than things that you got for free, because it takes away your dignity, and it's the bread of shame, the nam of the kisufa. So this is Klal Yisrael's complaint in the Midbar, is that we don't want mun. We want to do things. We don't want to be still and silent. We want to be active and accomplishing. And even when Hashem gives them meat, the wrong meat, it's the meat that falls out of the sky. It's like Hashem has a whole different agenda for them. That you want to be doers and you want to be running and jumping, and Hashem is saying, take them on. And then when you say you want meat, so Hashem says, oh, you want meat? There's meat. But that wasn't the point. We didn't want meat to fall out of the sky. We wanted to go in the woods with our gun, hang it over our fireplace, mount it. And look what I did. Wanted to feel accomplished. And I think it's the same thing when they come to Har Sinai. And they receive the Torah, and in 1 second, they hear, all the truth. They hear God talk to them. And it's the greatest moment in the world. You know everything. But it's also the worst moment in the entire world. For a nation who was looking forward to journeying, who left Mitzrayim in a rush, such a rush that the bread couldn't rise. That's what we want. We want that nothing's going to rise. Nothing's going to sit still. We're going to be vibrant and on fire. I don't want to be passive. The symbol of Pesach, of the whole Pesach, was the activity in the fire. Moshe leading them with the staff, the march, and the coming from slavery and going out to build our own land, our promised land. And all of a sudden to sit there and hear the whole Torah. Everyone knows, anybody's learned in yeshiva. There's such unbelievable svarim today out there that make learning easier. But if you go to a yeshiva, you can't touch them. I'm older. My kids, I have 2 kids in yeshiva learning 2 different gemaras, and I want to learn with them. And it's, my head doesn't keep up with them. They're sharper and quicker. They're quicker, sharper models. So how do I learn 2 different mesechtas? I go tonight, every Wednesday, I go learn my son in yeshiva. One's in there. It's Israel, most usually with and the other one's here. So I can drive for half an hour, but I can't keep up with it. So I have this book called the Mesifta. The Mesifta is a new Gemara with all the Mefarshim explained for you. In yeshiva, you're not allowed to use the Mesifta. But for middle-aged fathers who need to cheat and keep up with their kids. So I use the Mesifta, and I can sound like a genius learning with my son. He's still quicker than me, but okay. Thank God he never listens to my shiurim. He only listens to like Rav Gav and like the real speakers. So he'll never know I admitted all this online. Okay, but anyways, so what's the problem with the Mesifta? What's the problem? When I was in yeshiva years ago, they didn't have Mesifta. We had this Oitzim Mefarshei HaTalmud. It was called the Green Monster. They called it the Green Monster because it spelled everything out for you. A Ben Torah needs to get out of his chair and go to the shelf and find the Rashba and mess around with the pages and then sit over the Rashba. And then he has to wait for the other guy in yeshiva who has 1 of the 2 copies of the Ramban, and he'll trade. Okay, I finished the Rashba. Give me the Ramban. I'll give you my Rashba. And then the other guy has the Ritva. And then you got the players. It was work. It was work to find it and work to get it and work to figure it out. And what you felt like at the end, what you felt like a Ben Torah. You felt like you climbed Har Sinai on your own. That's the bracha of Talmud Torah, right? La saik b'divrei Sarah, to toil in Torah. V'higisa b'yom v'layla, to toil, to discover, to make it your own. How would it feel to sit at Har Sinai and instantly know everything? Like it says, Kol Masha Talmud Vasik Asav V'Chadish. Everything that any Torah scholar will ever discover was said on Har Sinai. They got the whole thing. It's like someone buys you this greatest book in the world, and you turn to the last chapter, read, and they lived happily ever after. But you didn't fall in love with the characters. You didn't read the 500 pages. You didn't. It's the same thing as mun. It's worse than mun, because mun is at least with food. This is with life itself, with knowledge and truth. I do a simple puzzle, and I don't want any hints. I want to figure it out for myself. Imagine in Torah, how emasculating it must be to sit by Har Sinai, and as glorious as it is, it's just you walk away, and what happened to me being me? So this is the Jewish people's complaint. In fact, I think even a little bit Hasidic pshat, but when it comes down after Har Sinai, they say, Ha'ish Moshe, the man Moshe, lo yodanu mahoyoloi. We don't know what happened to him. It's not that he's not here. They know where he is. We don't know what happened to our Moshe, the warrior, the journeyer, the hero, the fighter, the guy with the stick. And when did he retire? When did he become, just housebroken and domesticated? And all of a sudden now he's sitting home knitting. What does Moshe do now? The man Moshe, we don't know what happened to him. We have to replace him with a golden calf, something that's going to glorify growth and expansion and fire. No, we don't want to be led by retirees, people with great histories, but it's all in the rearview mirror. We want people who are still alive and on fire. This is the Jewish problem with the whole idea of Matan Torah. It's a heavy, heavy problem. And in fact, what the Jews couldn't count 40 days. They made a mistake on counting to 40. What's the vart? So you have to know that this is what 40 is. 40 represents always completion. And completion is not a good thing. Completion there's nothing to do when you're complete. It's very, in a way, it's at least the best way to articulate this complaint that I'm telling you that the Jews had with the mun and with Matan Torah is the problem with 40. I don't want to be done. 40 days for a child to be formed, marbles, Torah, everything's 40. 40 is sealed, it's a square, a mem, right? But the mem it means blemish. It's just, there's no flaw like that. It's just one big, huge, glaring flaw, the inability to grow. And this is why did the Jews count 39? Why did they count one day short? Because it's very powerful. Because they couldn't believe that there is such a thing in 40 in Judaism. That's what death. 40 means you go to Shemayim and you're done. If I'm alive, I have stuff to do. That's why in Judaism, though, halacha a little bit, Gemara, we never have 40. It always says 40, but 40 always means 39. The malachas HaShabbos are called arba'im chasarachas, 40 minus 1. When you give lashes to somebody, you don't give, it says you give arba'im chasarachas, 40 minus 1, 39 lashes, 39 malachas, because lashes are about change and Shabbos is about creativity. And for growth, change, and creativity, the opposite of growth, change, and creativity is completion. And therefore, there's no such thing as 40. We say 40, but it must mean 39. It's impossible to be 40 because 40 is not about life. 40 is about death. Life is the journey. So when they know that this Moshe is supposed to be up there for 40 days, Klal Yisrael assumes, like always, yes, it's arba'im chasarachas. It's 40 minus 1 because he's leaving us a job. He must be. This is not about the end of Klal Yisrael. And when Moshe doesn't come down 39 days, and they realize that what this is a real 40, like really done. It's like a life forever of mun, of everyone telling me what the Torah says without me figuring it out myself. It's a life of 40. We need a golden calf. This is irreparable. The man Moshe, who we don't know what happened to Moshe. He's not Moshe anymore. They broke him. They changed him. I don't know what happened. He got this cushy job, and he stopped being the first guy in the office every day and the last guy to leave. Maybe it's whatever it is. You don't need any more metaphors. You understand what I'm saying? And I'll just tell you the deepest thing. It's such a Hasidic thought. I don't know if anyone says it, but I'm sure it says that the luchais, right? They were chiseled. So the mem, the middle part of the mem and the samach, the two closed letters, how did it stand in there? It says the samach and the mem and the luchais b'neis hayoim. And I think that the deeper meaning of that is it's not telling us just aesthetically how the luchais looked and the gimmicky miracle. The idea is that when something is complete and there's nothing to do, it's been nice. You have to stand by a miracle because it's impossible for a human being to live a life when everything's completed. The only thing that wakes us up in the morning that gets me going is the hunger to accomplish something and to create. And that's the mem and the samach. The mem, any mem is benesa. It's standing with a miracle. It's not apider chateva. There's no way that mems function. All right, so that's the story of the golden calf. So it's a good kasha. So what's a teretz, right? What is the answer? Well, why did Hashem give them money? And why did they get the whole Torah on Har Sinai? And this dichotomy: am I supposed to be active and doing things? Am I supposed to be passive? And it's a heavy question, right? If you ask me, most people I know, every Rebbe I ever had, sounds like they were talking like the Jews in the Midbar. Yeah, they all talk about Amunah and trusting Hashem, but every chinuch guideline they ever told us was about working hard. Nobody ever told us to be passive. So what is it? Why by Har Sinai? And the best way to see this is why by Har Sinai is to say the Atem Tachari you should be silent. Why silent? When did silence become the model of the Jewish people? I know Esther's world, right? Esther's world of Tacharishi is go, do, build, create. Don't sit idle. Don't play defense. Go live with dynamism and fire and power. So this is the question. I'm repeating it a little bit because I have to, let it settle in my own head how I'm going forward. I'm stalling a little bit, but all right. So I have two. It's like a fork in the road over here. Which one am I going? It's my first time doing this share. So, all right. So there's two. I have to explain to you, to tie everything together. I'll tell you the fork, and then we'll decide which way we're going. Because we're going to end in the same place, hopefully. But the fork is I have to explain to you how plowing and silence is the same word. And we have to get back right, just so we know we are. We have to get back to the tablets to understand what a pesel of a tmuna is. But really, what we're trying to answer here is what is the answer to this question of why does Hashem give us man as opposed to letting us do it ourselves? Why, right? So the answer is like this. What happened to Moshe? Right? What happened to Moshe? Why the man? And the answer is that what the Jews are saying theoretically is right. You don't want to do nothing. But the mistake is that people think that there are two choices. That there's working hard and being passive. And passive is nothing. And working hard is doing something. And then I have to go, be passive. You're working too hard. Go let go. Be silent. Let Hashem do everything. Let Hashem give you man. Let Hashem split the sea. Let Hashem give you the whole Torah, and you sit back and watch. So the secret is like this: is that what does the word chayresh mean? It doesn't mean silent. It means to plow. Everybody in the world wants to grow. Everybody wants a flower. Everybody wants to be a cedar. Everybody's frustrated that we have to, that I don't have to be. I want to accomplish. I want to get busy. Give me the keys. Let me get in the car. I want to start my life. Give me trust me. Right? We tell our rebbeim and our parents and bosses, let me, give me autonomy. Let me show my initiative. Let me. We're all chomping at the bit, waiting to make our mark on the world. And silence seems like the antithesis of what we want. And the Torah says no. The first malacha, before you can even be zayreya, really, before you can plant anything, is first you have to plow. You have to sit there and you have to leave the field and open it up, soften it up, allow everything to penetrate. The act of silence is not silence. The act of silence is hearing, is being makabel, is to stop. Right? If you stop talking, your ears can hear. If you're the first stage is to plow your field. Silence is plowing. It's not neutral. It's the act of opening yourself up and becoming vulnerable and hearing, being stirred up and creating all the things that come with plowing. The experience of life is not doing or not doing. It's supposed to be doing or absorbing and creating the turmoil and the wrenching longings. The Jewish approach to silence is being plowed, is to allow the blade of the universe dig furrows into my soul, my personality, peel off the layers, so that the seeds that Hashem has for me will be planted firmly in the ground, in the soil, in the fertile places, and not superficially just resting on top of the ground. This is the idea of plowing. It's a different silence. What Hashem says to the Jews by Har Sinai and in the Midbar is that this journey from Mitzrayim. It's, what it's like. I just went on a trip, and the new generation, all they do on trips is take pictures and take pictures and take pictures. But you know what happens when you take pictures the whole time? You miss the whole experience. I can't figure out my phone and which button does this, and I end up, I don't have any pictures. You know what I have? I have memories, because I saw everything. I gave up on my pictures, and I leave it to the kids to figure it all out. But I have memories, and I saw everything. When we live life, when you're busy the whole time, then you're not be able to absorb what's really going on. And the Jewish approach to silence is plowing, and to see it. And this is what happens by Kriyas Yamsuf. And in the Midbar, Hashem says this is our most important experience as you're leaving Mitzrayim. Don't waste it with activity. You sit back and you get the mun, and you marinate longing and feeling and anger of the past and hope for the future and justice and pride, all these things. The silence is deafening, and it's very hard to deal with that silence. We'll get to that later. But that's the silence. It's a plowing. That's what we have it. So why did the Jews want to move forward? And the truth is, I can't get into everything I wanted to, but that's the fork in the road. I'm going to say I already married myself to the plowing side of the fork, but I'm going to tell you the side of the fork, and you'll think about it on your own. Is that the answer of yes, 40 is a problem, completion's a problem, but there's a step beyond 40. You don't have to go backwards to 39. Go backwards to 39 is just not doing anything. This is a refusal to be complete. How can you not want to be complete? There's something wrong with not wanting to be complete. The answer is yes, 40 is bad. You do nothing. But you don't have to go back to 39. Once you're by 40, 39 doesn't exist anymore. Right? There's another step, something called 50. Right? And there's 50 is in Kabbalah. It's not Kabbalah, it's just logical. You understand that in music, everything works within weeks, works with an octave. An octave means it's only 7 notes. The 8th note is the same as the first note. It's just the next level. So 8 is, if I'm stuck at a 7, I see 7, Shabbos is completion. I go, I don't want completion. You don't go back to Friday. You push forward to Sunday. You start a whole new week. You build on top of where you were. That's the idea of what 50 is. I mean, that's what 8 is. 50 is the ultimate 8. 50 is after 7 sevens is 49. That's the ultimate end. But then 50 is a whole new plane. And that's Moshe takes us through the whole journey up until Har Sinai, and we receive the Torah and the Midbar. Moshe's world ends by the 40. Ha'ish Moshe lo yadam ma'hoyla. We don't know what happened to him, and they're right. Because the person who's going to have to lead them in the future is a whole new trait. The guy who crosses the water, crosses the Yarden, and builds in the new world. He leaves this world of completion and goes to the next world with his vulnerability again, not because he went backwards, but because you accomplished it. And now there's a whole new level where you start from the scratch. But that needs to be a new person. And his name is Yoshua ben Nun. Nun is 50. He's the 50. So the struggle here was a struggle between 39 and 40, and it was wrong for the Jews to want to go back to 39 and not to accept Torah of 40. They had to have the bravery to go forward to a Torah of 50. Moshe is not going to lead you. Moshe took you as far as he could take you to completion, but there's something beyond completion because there's a new level. And you're going to cross the sea, and in Eretz Yisrael, you're going to start plowing and planting and harvesting again. There's not going to be any money in Eretz Yisrael. But it's on the next level. It's beyond completion. All right, I think I tied almost everything together. So now I got to go back to the end and tie it into talking during davening. So let's go back to the. I hope this is going to work. We go back to we said that there's two types of avodah zarah. There's a pesel and tumah. A carving, where you chisel away at something, and then the tumah where you create it. So the second luchais drops the vav. This is so beautiful. The second luchais drops the vav, and the vav represents the vav made it into a pesel al tumah. When you remove the vav, now it's a pesel of a tumah. So what is that? It doesn't even make any sense. In order to understand what sense it makes, you have to look at it in the context of what changed between the first luchais and the second luchais. The first luchais were before the egel, the second luchais were after the egel. So what happened with the egel? So before the egel, there were two types of avodah zarah. There was a pesel or tmuna. There's a pesel where you're chiseling off stuff and you're not doing stuff, and then there's, which is sort of like the silence, the removal of self, and then there's the tmuna, which is you're building something, you're creating, and life is either about receding or building. But now you have a pesel called tmuna, and there's a few ways to. I'll tell you the punchline, then how we explain. There's a few ways to go. The pesel kol tmuna is the result of the egel. Because what was the egel? Was the egel a pesel or a tmuna? Such a weird question, a weird thing, the egel. The question is crazy, right? A pesel is a block of stone that you chisel. You start from 100 and you work your way down. The tmuna is where you start with nothing and you create what you want and you end up with your picture. The egel is neither or both, or neither and both. The egel is called the masecha. A masecha is a third choice, where you melt all the stuff and then you pour it into a mold. Is that a pesel or a tmuna? Think about that. Is that crazy? It's like so cool. What is it? Is a pesel? Is it a pesel? Because you're melting it. It's the ultimate pesel, and you're reducing it to nothing. But you're pouring it into a mold. You're making a tmuna. But the tmuna is not really being something. It's being shaped by what you put it into. So it's really, you're making it, but at the same time, it's being limited in its expansion. It's a pesel kol tmuna. That's what it is. It's an activity that just looks like activity, but it's really total limitation. Which brings me, okay, so I don't know how to say it more. It's better maybe you just visualize in your own head so you figure out what that means. It's tripping, right? It's so cool. It's a pesel kol tmuna, it's a masecha. It's a carving of a picture. Meaning you're trying to make something from nothing, but you're reducing everything and limiting. It's not about being, it's about not being. So I think this is what I want to share with you about talking in shul. Is that, when I was thinking, I would say that I was thinking I'm going to use a mushal. I'm not sure if the mushal fits 100%, but it's a powerful mushal anyway. We'll see after the mushal if it fits. I speak a lot in my shiur. I use the most simple metaphors because the simplest things are the purest and the truest. And the picture of healthy, vibrant, dreaming people who are not broken and destroyed. There's always the prince fighting the dragon to get the princess. It's the girl, the bas melech is dignified. She's a princess. She's regal. She's something worth fighting for. And the boy wants to be the hero. The boy who's confident and proud and hasn't done things to be ashamed of in his life. He wants to be a hero. He wants the best girl. He wants to get a princess. But the way a boy who has great potential gets a princess who's already perfection is the prince has to prove that he's worthy of the princess. This is the story of the universe. Every boy, we all want to be the heroes getting the princess. But what you need is you have to kill a dragon. And you have to prove yourself because you want the princess. So let's say the guy is fighting the dragon and he's doing great. He's vanquishing the dragon. And then the princess says at one point, the dragon still has some fire left in him and they're wrestling on the ground and rolling in the dust. And then the princess says, okay, you proved yourself. You're the best. Wow, come. We'll get married right now. We'll go, go to the palace and live happy. It's time to live happily ever after. So let's say Prince Charming says, no, I'm almost done. Let me finish the dragon. I got him. I almost got him. Let me just finish it. It's a very deep thing. What happened there? When Prince Charming says that let me finish the dragon, means that it's not about the princess, it's about him. The whole reason he was doing it because he wants the princess. So as soon as the princess says, let's live happily ever after, so Prince Charming is supposed to drop everything and go to the hereafter, the ever after, right? Well, if he wants to finish the dragon, it means it wasn't about deserting the princess, it was about showing how great he was. And this was a study in sometimes where being is less being than not being. Where talking is worse than when doing is worse than silence, because the killing the dragon, the talking, as opposed to being the silent, which is stopping and just going to the princess, is it shows that you're missing your eyes on the ball. You don't know what the real goal is. Okay, let me tell you the nimshal, and you'll tell me if it's the right mushal. It's a useful mushal for other things. Maybe not for here. We'll see. I think it works. Is that this is so deep? Do you know why people talk in shul? Why do people talk in shul? Nobody says anything important in shul. This special kind of shul talk. It's just not restrained. So it's not even the deep parts of the news. It's the shallow parts of the news. It's the cheap little stocks that are whatever. It's all the stuff that is. We talk in shul, not because we want to communicate or want to do anything. We talk in shul because we don't want to have to face Hashem and need to be busy with something else because the job at hand is too daunting. Silence is plowing. There's nothing like the silence, and the silence in shul is the plowing of all plowings. Yitzchak davens, he goes out into the field. This is tefillah. Tefillah is plowing. Tefillah is talking to Hashem and facing all your truths and everything. You happen to be talking to Hashem, but that's what the point of tefillah is the palila, is the judging yourself, is the palila, right? Tefillah is you're judging, you're analyzing, you're thinking. It's heavy, it's daunting. Your soil is being stirred up and opened up, and it's so much easier to just run away and to not go there. And but you have to go through that, because otherwise your seeds won't grow. If you can sit there and do what you need to do in shul, and in that silence, allow all your layers to be peeled open and to hear what has to be heard within you, and to think about what needs to be thought about, and to judge what needs to be judged, then it'll be painful. It'll be tumultuous. I'm sure the soil does not enjoy being plowed. Plows are heavy and sharp, and they very disruptive. But when that seed goes in and starts to lay roots and starts to break the surface, and then when the fruit grows, nothing like it. So that's shul. And therefore, the talking in shul is not the connecting to my friend. I'm not being. It's the opposite of being. I'm running away from who I was supposed to be and just trying to duck this experience. And this is exactly what the chet of the Eikel was, and why it was a chet. So the inability for the Jews to deal with the man, and the inability of the Jews to receive the Torah on Har Sinai, and to experience everything in this passive way, was because they needed to be busy. They wanted to do stuff. No, they didn't. Anyone real knows that the more my soil gets dug up, the more I'll do later. The better the roots will spread out, the more embedded the seed will be, the more the minerals and nutrients will become more accessible and attainable. And the inability for people to go through that silence, it sounds like a very holy argument that I want to do something. I don't want to be passive. I want to do something. Well, the first thing you got to do is do nothing. It's atem tacharishon. There'll be plenty of time to plow when you cross the land. But there won't be anything worth plowing for if you don't build up the feelings and the depth that comes from the Harisha. The Rebbe Shem knows exactly what's necessary. In the end, you'll have plenty what to say, but don't say anything now. Because now you have to be plowed. In silence, you get plowed. You experience what it is to be experienced, and you stand by Har Sinai, and you learn to listen and let the words sink in. And the words are painful, and the words are they're critical. They make you think things about yourself, or create expectations and hopes and thoughts that are maybe pressurizing or daunting. But you have to go there. And the Jews wanting to run away, not wanting Har Sinai, being afraid of the men, it's not because they're afraid of completion, not because they don't want to do nothing. It's exactly an upside down world. It's mamish like the Masecha. The Masecha looks like it's being the Masecha is totally nothing. The Egel is the glorification of the Egel's not doing. The grown cow with the yoke on its back is doing. The Egel's disruptive. It's just, yes, it's something innocent about the expansive wildness of youth. But the glorification of youth is just the avoidance of silence and depth and hearing, and that's our stage. And then when you go through that, eventually you become a grown up in the plow, and you get a yoke, and you become an ox, and you can accomplish unbelievable things. The eagle grows up eventually. But Klal Yisrael's glory, and the people talking the equivalent of the eagle, saying, "Oh, the eagle, we don't want to do nothing. We want to be busy." Guy going to shul, yeah, I have friends. We're talking Torah. We're talking about business. I see these guys once a week. I gotta talk to them. It's as big a lie as the eagle is about productivity, as talking to shul is about being in friendship and knowledge. The eagle and talking in shul are the opposite are the avoidance of the silent stage. You don't want to hear anything. You don't want your soil to be messed around with and shooken up. But this is why the eagle is the biggest chet, and this is why talking in shul is the biggest chet. The eagle is running away from true greatness. The life is going to be life. You're going to be wearing a yoke and plowing the rest of your life. Yisachar chamar gora, right? Ayamin nucha kitoy, he said, right? Vayek shichma lispa. He bent over his back to accept the yoke. We're going to carry a yoke. But the only way you can productively carry a yoke is to first go become plowed. First get the depth of the mission, feel it and be fired up, and let your imagination be charged and your longings be stirred, and you got to be fired up. You watch what goes on in shul. And with Shabbos is like a day of shul. It's like people need to be busy the whole Shabbos. They need to be busy the whole shul. They need to be talking. So that's my summation. Talking in shul is it's the worst of the pesel and the tmuna. It's the masecha. It's a total loss of who you are. Taking all of your material, your valuable material, you're melting it into nothingness. And then you're reshaping it, not into anything you are, into a mold of something else. It is a life, I call it Houdini, a life escape artist, a person who can escape from everything rigid that's going to make something out of you. Yeah, listen, okay, I went around in a lot of circles, said a lot of stuff. The point is that 40 looks like completion. The answer is that, and people don't want to be complete. You don't have to. There's no such thing as being complete. After 40 comes 50, and the whole new level of greatness. Don't ever go back to 39. 30. This 40 is still. 39 is active, and 50 is active. 39 is the activity before the stillness. 50 is the activity after the stillness. Klal Yisrael didn't want the 40. Why not? Because they want to be active. So why are you going back to 39? Why are you going forward to 50? The answer is that some people just want to stay in being busy because they don't want to have to go through the silence. It's not that I don't want to be, it's not that I want to be creative. It's that I can't deal with the plowing of silence, the depth and the turmoil of the silence. I need to be busy. The tzaddik goes beyond the 39, he leaves his Mitzrayim and realizes that now I got to sit and be quiet and absorb all this and become the deepest of the deep. And then I can take all that and I can build like nobody ever built before. And that's Yeshua ben Nun, taking the Jews into Eretz Yisrael. All right, I guess what's the trait you need for this? What does the soil need? If you have to talk to the soil, this is a crazy way to say it, but if you have to talk to the soil before the guys were coming in to plow, you love your soil. You're a farmer, you talk to your land. What would you tell your soil when the guy is coming in? The soil looks and it sees these big animals with these big metal blades. You tell the soil. You tell the soil is, listen, this is what the Rabbi Shalom says. First thing you tell the soil is, trust me, I'm your farmer. You know what I paid for you? You know how long I dreamt about you? You know, what the farmer tells the soil is that I bought this land, I wanted this land, I made this land, you're my land. Trust me. It's only going to be good. You're coming with the blades. Just, you don't know what it's going to be like in 10 years. You know, there are going to be kids swinging on tires from your branches and eating the fruit and basking in the shade. You don't know what you can accomplish and who you're going to feed, what kind of country and landscape you're going to be part of. Just in the beginning, you have to be willing to be stirred up. So leave you with that image. In shul, we're asking you to be silent because we want you to get plowed. You want to turn your soil, turn it over and over and over and loosen it up. And you won't see the benefits of it when the trees start growing. It's your choice. So like the title of the share, the risk or the reward is yours. You want to avoid turning the soil over? Just distract yourself and talk to your friends. Shul will be painless. And your grandchildren won't have any branches to swing their tires on. There's no sound like a kid swinging on a tree and a tire. You want to hear that sound. All right. Shalom bracha v'atzlacha. Kol tov.